Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the official book launch of Sustainabilism by Ashkan Tashvir. It is an absolute privilege and honor to be here with every single one of you. I am really excited to see what we are. There's a lot that's going to be shared today. I'm seeing many both familiar faces, some new people. So please settle in, right? We're going to go through addresses by Ashkan. We're going to have over 10 speakers to share a little bit about what they've been experiencing from the book today. So a couple of quick notes before we dive in. There are some people, we've had a request that some people will be listening in different languages. So in the first of our chat, there's a little link there. If anyone wants to access the translation, it's a live translation of anyone speaking. Please check the chat, and then you can click that, and you can literally watch it in Spanish or whatever language you prefer. Okay. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the book. So this is the Sustainabilism book by Ashkan, right? It's 1,100 pages. There's a lot to go through. And today, I mean, some of you may be very familiar, obviously, with Ashkan's work. There have been now this is the 5th year where we've had one book per year. And so everything from the being book, human being, the becoming book, meta content, and now sustainabilism. So you might be someone who is really familiar with the work. I can see a lot of our Being Profile accredited practitioners in the room. You may have joined one of our programs and courses. Hi, Wayne, right? You may have come across some of our articles, right, on the website, or maybe you're brand new, okay? And for every single one of you, you are welcome here. And this is both an opportunity for you to learn what is in this book, yeah, how that can be impacting your life, and how it's actually already starting to be applied out there in the world. Because this, to me, yes, we're calling it a book launch. Yes, we're calling it a book, but there are different intentions for why people write books. Would you agree? Right? Some people write books because they want to say that I've written a book and they want to be an author. Some people write a book because they want to entertain, they want to delight people, right? And these are all extremely valid reasons. But some people write a book because they see something in the world. They see something that needs to be addressed, right? And it's existential for them, right? It's what part of the reason why they're alive. And to me, this is Ashkan's work. This is this book that we're looking at today. And it's not meant to be kept inside of these pages. It's here to be lived, breathed, and impacting people's lives. And that's why I'm so delighted to be inviting our special guests here, which we're going to hear from a bit later. Okay. So we are going to have time for question and answers towards the end. So feel free to prepare those and bring them up then. But without further ado, let me, for those of you who are brand new to the conversation, let me introduce to you Ashkan before I pass it to him to share it with us all. So Ashkan, if you don't know Ashkan, he is someone who is multidisciplinary, right? He has a hat as an author, a hat as a philosopher, and an entrepreneur. And he bridges wide different domains, things like ontology, organizational design, human development, technology, systems thinking, business, economy. And he is the creator of the Being Framework, something that we've had these 3 books so far around the Being Framework, which is now used in 50 countries through the Being Profile and our Being Profile accredited practitioner community. As I mentioned, this is his 5th book. Last year, from the Collège de Paris, he was awarded an honorary doctorate in business administration to acknowledge the impact of his work. And he is also the founder of Ingenesis and also Ingenesis Ventures, where I have the privilege to partner with him and go out and make a difference to businesses and leaders. So he is someone who not only is thinking about these things, he is building them and making that contribution out there. So without further ado, let me pass it on to Ashkan.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's a privilege to serve. And so, where to start? It's a big conversation when we're going to talk about sustainability, and there's a kind of polarization going on when it comes to this topic. Some people, some of you, may be sick and tired of hearing about this thing called sustainability. And others may be so delighted to be in an environment talking about it. But before we start, I want to address something quite directly. Some of you might hear the word sustainability or systems and think this is for academics, for activists, governments, ESG committees, or policymakers. It is not. So what we're going to talk about today, it's not just confined in those disciplines and environments. This is about you, because whether you realize it or not, you participate in systems. So you may not know yourself as system designers, but when you vote, um, you shape the political system. When you pay taxes, for example, you fund public services, or sometimes you fund wars. When you raise a family, you create a generational system. When you buy groceries, you influence economic systems, supply chains, and things like that are quite related to that. When you choose a suburb, a school, a community, you enter social systems. When you work in an organization, you contribute to its culture and integrity and its future. And your well being, your safety, your opportunities, the children's future, all of these, all depends on strength or weakness of the systems that we demand, we design, we implement, we refine, we criticize, or we participate in or subscribe to. So you are inside systems, you influence systems, you rely on systems, and you're affected when those systems deteriorate. So you are hearing the word system being used a lot now in this conversation already. Well, what do we mean by systems? Again, because you may say, okay, um, perhaps system with better to leave these systems to the experts in the field, to the system designers. Well, when I talk about system, um, I'm using the word in a most expansive sense. The system is any coherent set of interconnected parts. There are different elements, forces, relationships, meanings, intentions, and dynamics. They all influence one another in one way or the other way, and produce a pattern, behavior, or outcome. Now, sometimes these are conscious, they're consciously designed, or unconsciously evolved, and we're being impacted by them. So a system may be material, like a forest, an economy, supply chain. It can be social, a culture, a family, a team, a nation. It can be psychological, beliefs, value structures, emotions, intentions, identity. It can be conceptual, a narrative, a worldview, or what I call meta content, a doctrine, an ideology, a policy. It can be relational, like trust, agreements, expectations, power structures. It can be emergent, um, um, the culture in our civilization, norms, collective behaviors, trends. So basically, then when I talk about systems, I'm talking about anything that has parts, elements, actors. Then there's interactions between them. There's a pattern of behavior, tendency, or trajectory, a purpose or meaning, as I call it in the book, an emergence, the whole thing that actually is going to be generated out there, and it's going to lead us to experience them phenomenologically. So most importantly, a human being is also a system. Now, this is not to belittle human beings or degrade us to only rational or systemic part of us. No, definitely the human psyche is way bigger than being confined in this system thinking pattern, but we are also a system. And so often when we talk about sustainability, it's being seen as ecological or environmental, ESGs. But what I'm talking about in this book is the ecology of human existence, hence ontological. We are acknowledging in this book that it's not just the surface level metrics that often, like in the corporates, from an organizational perspective, we want to measure them, but going deeper, going at the human level. So this kind of, we're challenging this separation of systems from human beings. Because I'm often told that, oh, you by train, you're a system designer. How come you keep talking about the integrity of individuals all the time? When I started working on the being framework. Well, the answer is, who are the ones who are designing, implementing, demanding, refining these systems is us. So basically, the systems that are designed are the manifestation of how we are being. Our intentions, are we coming from bad faith or ill intention? Or no, actually, we really want to contribute to the coherence of whatever is being created. So we cannot separate human beings from systems. So we are the ones who create these systems, most of these systems. And if we are not happy with these systems, then we need to go and look inward. That's one of the core messages in this book. We need to look inward. And what I have done in this book, in part of this book, after critiquing the existing, like the current state of affair when it comes to sustainability and the superficiality with that, we don't stop at the critique level, and we actually go and map out or deconstruct these common patterns, these common phenomenological patterns, the common human experiences, the way that we relate to certain key qualities. So there's this ontology that has been created in this body of work, which I refer to as the unified ontology of systemic integrity. Now, it may be mouthful or fancy, but it is simple at its core. If you picture a lemniscate or basically an infinity sign like that, you're going to, and then each of the parts that's being created here is a sphere, I call them. Now, so one is integrity sphere, and the other one is disintegration sphere. And the idea that integrity, coherence is something that in a linear way, you're going to go and achieve it. You're going to sit there, reside comfortably, is inauthentic on its core. Qualities like integrity are asymptotic ideals, or horizontal value, is something not to be attained. It's not like you go and then get there, like authenticity, integrity, mastery, perfection. You're not going to get there. So it's not linear. I use that pattern, that pattern that I depicted, that lemniscate sign, to say that we are continuously, whether we are conscious of it or not, we are in transition. The systems are in transition. It's not fixed. It's not a static. So we always tilt towards disintegration, or the systems tilt towards disintegration, and they go back. Now, the thing is, we need to develop that sense of integrity and coherence so that we can see the symptoms on the surface that we're going off track. The integrity needs to be restored. Now, so in the disintegration sphere, in the construct, I talk about core qualities, like 4 qualities. One is shadows. So shadows, in a most expansive sense, is the distortions, the illusions, misconceptions that we may have, or the blindness, like the things that we don't see, or sometimes the inauthenticities that we have, and we try to put our head in the sand not to see them. We neglect them, we ignore them. So if these shadows are not being addressed, what is going to happen is we're going to go to the second quality. We're going to have an external condition being created, which I refer to it as misery. Not necessarily in a conventional way that we use the word misery, but it's a cluster word for a spectrum of problems, like starting from trivial discomfort. For example, you want to go to the toilet and the toilet is occupied, and you're going to experience something, yeah? So there's some external condition actually happening. Now, all the way to difficulties and adversities and catastrophes and crises. So I use the cluster word misery for that. So if the shadows, those distortions, are not being addressed, then they're going to lead us to this condition, which I refer to as misery. Now, the misery is going to be experienced by us human beings, sentient beings. And that experience of that misery is what we refer to as suffering. So suffering then becomes more subjective. The same misery, different people are going to experience it differently. Different nations are going to experience it differently. Now, here's the thing. So we already talked about 3 of the 4. Now, if the shadow is not being addressed, the misery, that condition, reinforces itself, and the experience of suffering becomes self-sustaining. Then we're going to be pushed into the 4th one, which I refer to it as entrenchment. We're going to be entrenched. We're going to be entrapped. We're going to be in this both condition and experience as if there's no way out. We're stuck. We struggle to the point that we can be at the verge of breaking down. Now, when I say we, it can be any system and us. The system is going to be at the verge of breaking down to the point that it can disintegrate. We're not inherently saying in this body of work, we're not saying disintegration is a bad thing. We're not saying that it's a negative thing. Sometimes some systems that they cannot endure, they cannot last and keep their coherence. And no matter what we do, we cannot actually support their restoration of their integrity. They are meant to sometimes be collapsed or disintegrate. And that disintegration is not a necessarily negative thing, because they're going to open rooms, open space for renewal. So basically, that was one of the 4 spheres that in the unified ontology of systemic integrity we discuss. And on the other side, where we have the integrity sphere, then we have qualities like intention, trust, sovereignty, which is a cluster word for freedom, liberty, autonomy, and then being. That's exactly where the authentic sustainability framework gets connected to the being framework I believe that many of you are familiar with that. So while the being framework mainly focuses on a basic performance, or general performance, like how we engage with this thing called life, how we participate in life, in projects, in work, sustainability zooms out, but put the focus on, now that we know that we perform, we're being effective, like we can measure the momentums, we can fulfill some of the intentions that we have. Are we um, um, equipped enough to have the effectiveness sustained? Therefore, in the sustainability discourse here, we talk about sustained effectiveness. So this is not just to perform or be effective, but to develop the systemic integrity that it can lead to endurance, regenerative systems. Now, one key message in this is, if any system needs to be continuously manipulated through artificial interventions, manual interventions, to be maintained, then it's not sustainable. So that is the thing that so when we, for example, in policies or in that performative, scripted, prescribed version of sustainability, which I refer to as sustainabilism. So that's a doctrine that focuses on appearing to be sustainable, which is a big phenomenon like we talk about in this book. Hence the ironic term was coined as the title of the book. So it's not about new ism. That's the last thing that we need in our era. This is actually like with a kind of humor or an irony. We're trying to say it's a cult-like doctrine that many fall for, and at the end of the day, it doesn't serve the things that it claims. Yeah. Now, yeah. So if you want to move past that, then we need to look inward. We need to look into the qualities that we have, because in order for us to build sustainable systems, we need to be sustainable. We can only build as good of a system as we are. We cannot import people from Mars or other planets to build these better systems for us. So yeah, so that's basically what the book is all about. I think it's impossible to go through every bits and pieces of the book in this short time, and I hope that I have given you a kind of a glimpse into what you're going to be reading in the book. And obviously the book doesn't stop at criticism or critique. Then we look into the unified ontology of systemic integrity. As I said, 4 spheres, 16 major qualities. We already talked about 2 of them in a way. So perhaps like it's good to touch on like the 3rd sphere as well. I think it's going to make a difference here. So if you see that, and when you see that limnescate sign, imagine that that's a twisted rope. Now, if you loosen it up, there's a 3rd hole that is going to be created in the middle. So that is the modulation sphere. So the idea is, as we are continuously in this transition from integrity to disintegration with any system, so transition is often unconscious. Now, as a leader, as a person, the moment that you make that unconscious conscious, so basically you identify some part of those transitions and you do your best to influence them through your leadership. Then I refer to that transition modulation or regulation. So basically, we want to be, as leaders, we want to be the ones who can modulate these systems, or gradually develop the systems to be self-modulating, self-regulating as much as possible, so that we minimize the artificial manual interventions. Now, the art of the mastery around this modulation, it's going to make it or break it if you don't get competent in that. So the idea with modulation, which actually we talk about four different qualities there: tolerance, patience, adaptability, and surrender. So the idea is to support you as a leader to be able to modulate in all these transitions as we're developing these systems, or the systems that are unconsciously are evolving. So yeah, so we go through the unified ontology of systemic integrity, the four spheres, 16 qualities. And then as we go, in part 7 and 8 of the book, we get very, very practical. We start leveraging the meta content and nested theory of sense making. So basically how we make sense of these systems, how we make meaning after like sense make we made sense, how we develop intentions anchoring in this deep rooted meaning, so that we gain clarity. What is it that we're trying to do in our organization, with our teams, in our lives, in these systems that we're designing and implementing and reforming? So, and then in part 8, we have that blueprint already, going towards this authentic sustainability, what we call it here. And then in part 8 is basically the time that we're going to leave that. We're going to basically embody that. We're going to actualize it. We're going to go toward it. So you need to be patient in the beginning of the book as you get to part 7, which is a lot of chapters, but then it's rewarding. So that's like to prime you. If you're planning to read the book, just be patient with it in the beginning. And we will lay out lots of different things, and then you're going to be dealing with like new words that are coined, new concepts and everything. But then we'll pull them together in part 7 and part 8 so that you can practically basically use the thing. At the end of the book, there's this appendix. We're going to make it available very soon, next week, sometime next week, on the website. There's this white paper that you can see basically how all of these things have been put together, how then the sustainability profile, the ontometric measurement tool, assessing how we individuals and teams relate to these 16 qualities that I just touched on. So there's a tool similar to Being Profile. You can actually use that as well. We'll give you more information. But yeah, so at the very end of the book, there's this appendix, and we're going to make it available to everyone as a PDF on my personal website. And you can basically see how this has been put together, as well as like the leadership program that we had in parallel to the development of this body of work, so that we make it as practical as possible. So I think that it's good for me to leave it here. To pass it on to Arya. Thank you again for joining us today and listening to what this book has to offer. Yeah.
Thank you, Ashkan. Awesome. So as you can see, there is a lot in the book. And now I want to start bringing in our guest speakers who can share from both their experience, them being part of the book, and also in some places where it's already being applied. But first and foremost, I'd like to introduce Phaedra Pym. She has been with us releasing every single one of Ashkan's books for the last 5 years. Over to you, Phaedra.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Arya. And hello, everyone. It's great to see you all here. Firstly, I'd like to extend my sincere congratulations to Ashkan on the publication of his latest body of work. And it's really a body of work more than a book. His 5th in as many years. It's been an absolute honor to work alongside him as his editor throughout this project, as I have with each one before it. As someone who works with words for a living, as I do, I've always been fascinated by how the term sustainability has almost become exclusively associated with the environment, when in reality it's just a word that's just one dimension of it, albeit a vital one. In its full sense, as Ashkan said, sustainability means the capacity to continue or to endure over time. And that principle applies to everything worth sustaining: ourselves, our relationships, our businesses, our communities, and every system we participate in. And if we scale that up, it extends to the institutions we rely on to manage our economy, justice, defense, housing, all the pillars that hold a coherent society together. That's how important this is. When Ashkan and I began this project, neither of us, I believe, well, I certainly didn't, anticipated the scale that it would eventually reach, more than 1,100 pages. But every page, I can assure you, truly earns its place. It's not expansive for the sake of it. It's dense with meaning, structure, and genuine care. And if you read it with an open mind and heart and act upon it with genuine commitment, it really has the power to make a real and lasting difference. I'm in awe of Ashkan's ability to peel back a subject layer by layer like an onion, and then to reconstruct it with such clarity and precision that people engaging with his work walk away with something tangible, like truly tangible to build upon. So I would say to anyone who cares about the state of our world today, and everyone here I'm sure does, the fact that you're here means that you do, and the kind of future that we're shaping for our children and grandchildren, I urge you to read this book and to share it widely. Last but not least, I'd like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to the editorial team, Caroline New, Christina Howen, and Eric Hook, and also to our beta readers whose early feedback was invaluable in shaping this extraordinary work. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Phaedra. So I definitely see you in every page of those pages of the book as well, and thank you for your contribution. Excellent. So next, I'd like to invite Caroline New to speak. She was a proofreader on the book. She's also been with us from day one of the Being Profile, and she's a leadership coach and practitioner. Over to you, Caroline.
Thank you, Aria. Wow, we got here. This is amazing. Yeah, as Aria said, I'm a technology leadership coach. I have a background in journalism and communications consulting, and I have been privileged to be part of the Ingenesis community for nearly 6 years now. I had the opportunity to read the Sustainabilism book as part of the editorial process, and was profoundly impressed by the depth of thinking that Ashkan displays in developing and solidifying these models for authentic sustainability. You know, Ashkan does far more than just raise concerns and highlight issues, which is one of the reasons why some people write books. But he's applied the full extent of his, and I got to use the word prodigious intellect, to develop a comprehensive framework of interconnected models that have been tested in real-world situations and proven to be effective. In the work I do with leaders in the technology and energy sectors, the sustainabilism conversation has enormous relevance for the individuals, the teams, and the technology systems that today underpin every aspect of the way we live, work, play, consume. You know, a case in point is the explosive growth in AI systems that are increasingly being used to replace human tasks, human roles, and human decision-making. A lot of very credible industry commentators right now are asking, you know, how do we ensure that these platforms are developed, implemented, and maintained and applied in ways that are responsible and sustainable? Here, Ashkan offers a way forward. You know, as Ashkan's already implied, this book and the sustainabilism conversation are likely to trigger some people who either assume the idea of sustainability is being attacked. It's not. Or those who are just so over the sustainability conversation that as soon as it's mentioned, they roll their eyes and check out mentally. And if that's you or people you know, encourage them to think again and keep an open mind. I often joke with Ashkan, and although I'm not joking, that in 100 years, people will talk about the Tashvir school of philosophy the same way they talk about Plato and Aristotle and Socrates today. You know, he's written 5 books in the last 5 years, but each one has built on the previous one, deepening the work. And this book is, you know, the models it introduces, it's complex. Ashkan says at its core, it's simple, yes, and it's complex. And I'm certainly far from getting my head fully around it. But already it's clear to me that Ashkan's approach to sustainability has enormous potential to advance how we operate and evolve in our communities, businesses, and globally. So I just want to give my sincere congratulations, Ashkan. This work is a massive achievement. I look forward to diving back into it to deepen my understanding and start to use it with my clients. And I can't wait to see the fruition of the other projects that I know you're currently working towards. So yeah, my heartiest congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Excellent. So next I'd like to introduce the wife of Ashkan, Atefeh Tashvir. Atefeh, please go ahead.
Thank you, Arya. And greetings, everyone. Here we are, another year, another book. So yes, I'm Atefeh. I'm Ashkan's wife. I own a high-end custom-made jewelry brand called Pardisian, and I'm also a personal development coach. There is a well-known saying, behind every successful man, there's a strong woman. And here I am. But yeah, joke aside, while I won't take full credit, I would say standing beside Ashkan on this journey has given me a unique vantage point. Ashkan, congratulations on completing Sustainabilism. This achievement surely has been anything but easy, and witnessing your dedication firsthand has been inspiring. Many of you may know Ashkan as a business owner, a leader, an author, a philosopher, but beyond those roles, he is a devoted, loving husband, a wonderful father who reads bedtime stories, tucks the kids in. He is an amazing chef. He's a poet, a collector, and he simply enjoys the best. He enjoys simplest moments in life. But my point is that in everything he does, Ashkan acts with grace, integrity, and intention, and a true embodiment of what sustainabilism represents. And I want to thank everyone who contributed into this body of work, especially Phaedra. Thank you. And thank you, Arya.
Thank you, Atefeh. Excellent. I think everyone knows how much work would go behind the scenes, right? It's unthinkable, right? Very good. So up next, we have Aydin Yassemi. Aydin is an executive and leadership coach to many corporations, and he also leads our Being Profile programs and Thrive programs in Iran. Aydin, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure and privilege to be here. I met Ashkan the very right time in my life, 4 years ago. That's after 35 years of work, 30 years of which was working with different organizations and very concerned with sustainability as I worked with the UN system starting in 2006. I worked with the United Nations Development Program. I was involved in a forest conservation project, in a wetlands conservation project, in conversion of farmers to organic farming. And my friends used to joke that wherever you go, after you leave, the system collapses. So what's happening? And tonight, I just got up to prepare for the meeting, and there was no water in the tap, because in Iran, we are having water rationing and shutdowns a few hours every day. And I also used to work with the water management company here. And so I can be an example to everything that Ashkan said, that I wanted to be a system designer, but I was looking at the system as an external thing. I thought I had done my job as a consultant, as a coach, as a trainer, and then finish the project and off I go. But now the shadows have turned into misery, and the misery to suffering, and the suffering to entrenchment. And the system is disintegrating and collapsing. And that's a good thing. It's fall here. In Australia, it may be spring. And fall is the time for the leaves to fall. And a new spring is coming. I can see it coming. And I'm preparing to be part of it. I have been part of the problem, but I'm also part of the solution. And as Ashkan mentioned, the systems are the manifestations of how we are. So if you're not happy with the system, look inward. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And again, another sentence that echoed to me as I read the book is that we can only build systems as good as we are. And it's a great book because I've been familiar with systems thinking since I was at university studying physics. In Berkeley, I love this Heisenberg principle that the observer is not separate from the observed. And I couldn't understand it then, but now I truly feel it with every cell of my body that I'm not separate from the systems that I'm observing. And systems thinking and systems dynamics was a real cornerstone in 20th century. And I think Ashkan's book, the Systemic Integrity, and seeing human beings as an integral part of the system, and looking at the ontology of how we are being in the systems, is going to be the foundation for the 21st century of how we look at systems and how we design systems as we try to integrate ourselves. So thank you, Ashkan, and thank you, everyone. This community, it has been a privilege and such a great learning journey and a transformation. Thanks, Arya. Back to you.
Thank you, Aydin. And it's in the chat. I'm part of the problem, but I'm also part of the solution. My being is not separate from the systems. Thank you so much, Aydin. Really great. Next, I'd like to introduce Lucy Faulconer. She is the General Manager of Being Profile. Lucy, over to you.
Thank you, Arya. I remember the first time I had to speak at one of your launches, Ashkan, but as you do one every year, it's getting easier. Not so nervous anymore. So congratulations, Ashkan, for this. I get to lead the community of coaches that use the Being Profile and the Being Framework in their work as coaches, supporting individuals, leaders, organizations. And I'm deeply grateful to have this opportunity to support so many of you in the community, but to mainly work alongside you, Ashkan, to learn from you and to contribute in some small way, sometimes big ways, to your body of work and to continue to create it. One of the greatest gifts of your thinking is your ability to see patterns and to anticipate what many of us are actually struggling to articulate, that are dealing with, and then to design a way so that we can access that and that we can leverage it in what we do, in the conversations that we have, in the work that we do. And this book, Sustainabilism, really reminds us that good intentions and hard work isn't enough. And that for anything to endure, we need that awareness, we need that constant assessment, and also to deliberately and intentionally renew what it is that we are looking to achieve and what it's going to take. And what it actually, I think, means to thrive in life. And I think that's the conversation that we're in, and that we're challenged to maintain and to keep bringing to our attention. And in this world where we're all urgent and busy and constantly struggling to find time, this reminder with this book, I think, really matters. and honoring not only everything is going to look how we want it to look, but actually that there's ups and downs in everything that we create. And you've brought language to that. Leading this community of practitioners, I've seen firsthand how much the being framework has evolved and the being profile has evolved. And when we first saw that big book, the being book, and all of us were thinking, oh, how are we going to make sense of this? I know that that brought to life so much. But then with the stories we've held, with the work that we've done, and the countless moments that we've created of insight in this community, we've been able to articulate that into a very practical way and very practical use. And I know that this book, big book that you've got there behind you, is also just the beginning of this deeper articulation. And that with the work that so many faces here I already see are doing in organizations, with teams, we're going to bring it to life and make it really tangible and have so many stories of impact because of this first book. And I'm excited to be a part of that. So with new distinctions, new conversations to be had, and new possibilities, I'm excited to see what will happen. And I trust your work, Ashkan. I've seen how impactful it is. And I look forward to being able to continue to contribute. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Lucy. Yeah, I completely agree. It's about now, how do we bring it to life, right? And live it and embody it. Thank you. And on that same note, I'm going to be introducing Jacqueline Hofste. She couldn't be with us today, so she has provided a video. I'm going to play that in a moment. Jacqueline leads the Ingenesis Influence Leadership Program with myself, supporting leaders and entrepreneurs. So let me now share that. Give me a brief moment.
Hello everyone, and special hello to Ashkan. I feel so privileged to be part of your journey, Ashkan, for quite a few years. And now this book, it truly hits a nerve, and it needs to hit a nerve. And I was so glad that I could be part of the reviewing team, so I actually have an idea of what this book is about. And I might have to read it like 10 times more. It's so deep, it's so challenging, because we need to be confronted. We need to look deeper. We cannot do these surface level ticking boxes, quick fixes. We are confronted in today's society to look deeper. And with this book, you have given us an opportunity with a framework to look deeper, to really find out how we can create sustainable solutions, whether it is in the business realm, whether it is in our private life, whether it is in our communities. And what I really find so awesome, that you're also giving us solutions. They're not that sort of easy to implement. And I'm not saying that to be critical, I'm just saying that be prepared for something, because this is what we need. This is what society needs. This is what we as leaders have to bring into the world. We cannot just follow processes, tick boxes, and think we have done the right thing. It needs another level of depth. And you have brought it to us. I also feel so privileged and so excited that we can actually incorporate this work into the Ingenesis Influence Leadership Program. And we're doing it right now. It is just such an exciting journey. So Ashkan, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you for all the work and the challenges and the tribulations that you go through, so we have this new framework.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. Yes, I mean, we're literally in the middle of the very first influence program where we are bringing this work to leaders and they are actioning it in real time. So it's quite exciting. Beautiful. So next up, I'd like to introduce Dr. Jordan Marijana Alexander. She's based in New Zealand. She works with corporations and also a particular piece on culture. So over to you, Jordan.
Thank you so much, Aria. You're already creating all the sustainabilism, Ashkan, within our community. My business partner, the co-founder of Relatable Global, Jeanette Mundy, was brought together within this group, and I think everyone here today, we're honoring your latest achievement. But I'm also present to almost the responsibility, the privilege and the responsibility that each of us has. So we're here in celebration, but we're also, I'm just really present to the fact that each one who's here also has this beautiful opportunity to create beyond, so within our community and externally. So thank you for that, for just that, sort of the beginning of that. As a consultant and a coach, I've already been applying the Being framework extensively, and it's been invaluable. The work with leaders, the impact on teams, what people are exposed to that they can then, once it's revealed, be able to do something with, is creating such effectiveness. And I personally can't wait to read the book. I know it's a big one, but I know that it will have those same hooks and examples that we can apply. And sustainabilism is just going to broaden that work that we do with organizations. I have been exposed to some of the models in Being Mastery. And one of those areas that I can see that the application is when we talk about the power of connecting leaders to their unique and authentic meaning and purpose before they build their business. Because when we challenge that bedrock that the business is built on and challenge those intentions, it can lead to more lasting, but also different results. So in our last Being Mastery class, you talked about the smartphones. And I've already used that smartphones conversation with the client in a strategy session. And basically, when we think about the different intentions that we have, plus that underlying meaning and purpose, we've got the role of the designer, and then it's creating a completely different output. So if you think about it, the designer who's got different intention and different meaning can create something that's sustainable, virtually indestructible, or they can create the thing that the wheels fall off and you have to replace it every 1 year. And so I think that I'm already seeing those connections between the Being framework and the application and these possibilities of going another layer deeper. So the work that we do with women particularly, I think about what's possible there. And it's so powerful. If we can cut through those external expectations and enable women to lead with more authenticity, imagine that ripple effect in the kinds of businesses that will be created from and by women attached to that deep, meaningful bedrock. So lots of possibilities that I can imagine, and I haven't even read the book. I only know some of the concepts that you've shared with us. And this more intentional approach to business design, it is going to change the world. And I am a Pollyanna and very hopeful. And I know that the work that this community does, that responsibility, that we will all take parts of this and apply it. So thank you, Ashkan. I echo the sincere congratulations that you've received, and your work is very, very appreciated. So thank you all.
So great to hear that these conversations are already, going out there and making a difference, even one piece at a time. So next, I'd like to introduce Jeanette Mundy. As Jordan just mentioned, Jeanette is the business partner of Jordan, but also is an ontological and leadership coach in and of herself. Jeanette, please go ahead.
Thank you, Aria. Congratulations, Ashkan. What an amazing, phenomenal body of work this is, truly. I was one of the beta readers of the book, so I was able to, I read the entire book, and I just found it so enthralling. I just had to keep going and keep going. Oh my gosh, something else has just opened up. This is just phenomenal. But the way I applied it is, for me, with the work that I do with women. And so I always come across women who are either redefining their life or thinking, how can I lead powerfully? How can I create more clarity around what I want to impact and influence in the world? And that conversation just never stops. I hear it every single day. And so what this sustainability conversation opened up for me in the context of women is especially how we talk about women in leadership, is that while this conversation is evolving and many of the systems and the beliefs and the patterns and the narratives can easily distract women from their innate worth and value. And it is no joke that every single time I speak to a woman, this is what happens. Now, if we've got that happening in the background of who we think we are, then we need this sustainability conversation. Because we hear it, we see it in the systems and the marketing rhetoric that promote beauty standards, the pressure to look successful or high achieving, or the parenting standards, or they're everything like that. They're all so powerful that they can easily shape how a woman sees herself. And in doing so, they tend to undermine the woman's true value and have the potential to shape the filter through which they evaluate their choices and their worth. And, you know, hearing Atefeh speak about, the strong woman behind Ashkan just really it really touched me. And I see so many women in this room today. And I think to myself, well, what if, as I was reading the book, well, oh, wow, what if every woman just believed in herself and she was able to cut through all of that noise for herself? What does that do to the families that she's in? What does it do to her community? So I think that a woman's autonomy to choose powerfully is important more now than ever before in society. And I think it's worth asking whether the choices that a woman makes every day about her career, relationships, her family commitments, her leadership responsibilities, her well-being, the kind of life and legacy she wants to build are coming from grounded intention, or they're coming from autopilot, which many women slip into without even realizing it. You know, that familiar sense of, oh, this is what I'm meant to do, or this is how it's supposed to be, instead of asking what really matters to me. What would I choose if I wasn't being influenced by who I think I should be, or how I think this should look, or what I should do, or what I've convinced myself that I really want? And this is where sustainability and the book, Ashkan, becomes deeply relevant, because it starts with each individual and the pattern that they bring into their family, their community, and their wider contribution. So the truth is, yes, the world needs more authentic, aware women leaders, powerful, strong women who can see through the noise and question the inauthentic systems that they've become a part of, which I can attest to that I've become a part of too. But how can we just become more aware of that and help restore systemic integrity in those spaces where we lead as women, so that we can know ourselves so deeply and choose from that place of deep knowing, deep coherence, and more intentional and ultimately more sustainable? So I know this body of work for redefining what it truly means to be sustainable is an enormous contribution across society in general, but I also know it's a real huge contribution to women if we want to truly take it on. Ashkan, congratulations. What you have offered is both deeply human and systemically transformative, a rare and important contribution for leadership. And I'm going to take on what Aydin said. I'm part of the problem, but I'm also part of the solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Brilliant. So next up, I'd like to invite Greg Aldridge to speak. Greg is the founder of Everyman Australia, based here in Canberra, and he's the recipient of the Order of Australia Medal for his work in the space. Greg, please go ahead.
Thanks, Aria. Like everyone else, I really want to congratulate you, Ashkan, on the monumental success you had in writing. I hadn't realized until I heard it that you released a book every year. Whenever I think about writing a book, I'm not sure how I could squeeze out enough words to make more than a short novelette or the textbook equivalent of it. And as we've heard, every book builds on something else that's come before it. I think that's an enormous achievement. I was really happy to hear Aydin bringing back the conversation around being part of the problem, because we're all part of the problem. I trained in systems theory back in the day, and it's really great for me to see it coming back, because what I've seen around in the community sector in particular, where I've spent my life, is an individualization of processes, rather than talking about relationships between, say, a young person who has a problem, a young person who's suicidal, a young person who's getting involved in political extremism. We talk about them, but we don't talk about the families that support them. We don't talk about what goes on in the communities that they live in, that leave many of our individual citizens vulnerable to getting caught up in things that ultimately harm them and damage the people around them. So for me, a systems focus is absolutely essential, and I hope what we're starting to witness is a return to a deeper level of systems thinking. My engagement in Genesis goes back 6 years, I think, 6 or 7, well, it must be 6 years, which is why I was surprised that it was a book a year. I thought, where's that time gone? And what I've seen that I've been able to accomplish inside of my own organisation is the outcome of what feels like a very protracted engagement with my staff, to have them to start taking on board what it means to be responsible for who they are. Many people just live automatic lives and take it for granted that the way that they see the world is the way that the world actually is. And I can't tell you how valuable the distinctions in the being framework have been, to have conversations with people where we can go in and start to challenge some of the most important aspects of who they are. Now, that might seem strange for the community sector. You think it's a place where we go in to support people and have these sorts of conversations, but we always tend to do that with our clients, not with each other. We do it with the people that we support because they're over there. And in some ways, it's safer to do it with them because they come to us with some sort of dependency. And one of the things I've noticed time and time again in our sector is that people don't deal with each other the way that they deal with their clients. So we're a world of vision and mission. And in 2015, the ACT government commissioned a study about how government can work with the business sector and the community sector. And the most interesting thing about that study for me was the executive summary, which basically said the authorising context for business is the bottom line. The authorising context for the community sector is values and mission, and the authorising context for government is process. We've all heard that saying, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different outcome. What I've learned to realise is that when I deal with government, when there's a problem, what they do is throw more process at it. A business will decide it's doing well if its profit margin is really good. And in the community sector, we think that if we talk about values and mission more, then somehow that makes whatever it is that we're dealing with better in some way. The one thing we never talk about is the people who are driving these systems. So in the community sector, we have just as many difficulties dealing with the human side of what we do as business does, as government does. Like, I find it very difficult sometimes to engage people in government around the impact of what they do on people in the community sector, because they live in a world where they're not really able to talk about the impact of themselves on each other. So to go to another sector and have that conversation is a real challenge. So what I've been doing with my organisation is developing a leadership which is able to have difficult conversations and share the impact of things that are happening, the relationships that are happening. And over time, I've seen us get more and more integrated as an organisation. People get a deeper level of satisfaction out of what it is that they're doing. The management team comes together in a united way that they never did before. And I know this is because of the work that we're doing. So when I look at some of the basic principles of sustainability, as Ashkan is starting to present them to us, I see the importance of trust. It was the first thing that jumped off the page when I looked at my sustainability profile. And I thought, yeah, I'm looking at trust between individuals. It's time to start having a conversation about trust in our organisation. But then I realised it's also a trust between people in our organisation and our board. And people in our board, what's the relationship of trust like between them? What's the relationship like between every man as a whole and government and the rest of the community sector? So I've got a whole new world to start looking into, and I'm really excited about starting to take on the sustainability distinctions as a way of accessing how to have our organisation have a deeper level of sustainability. This is really important to me. I'm turning 70 in a couple of weeks, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to be working for, but I want my organisation to be stronger when I leave it than it was when I started it. Well, I mean, it already is, but I don't want my departure to leave the organisation without having strong leadership. And this work is absolutely the way for me to go forward to make sure that that happens. So thank you, Ashkan, for everything that you've contributed.
I think what's just so phenomenal there, Greg, is the level to which you're directly having the impact, on the community, on, real individuals. It's just phenomenal. So thank you. And to continue on, I'd like to introduce Mark Evans, who actually works with Greg, but is also a consultant and facilitator. Over to you, Mark.
Well, happy Saturday or Friday night, wherever you are, everyone. I'm Mark. I can only reinforce what Greg said. Actually, I met Greg in a training situation, and here we are many years later. It was one of the most fortunate interactions I've had in my professional career. Ashkan, there's lots of lovely things said about your work ethic and your intellect and your love of learning. But just one observation from me is your great care for all of us here. We are here because of you. And in some ways, I look at what you've created, the body of work, and that's one dimension. But I think your ability to care for us, and that's really difficult through a screen, but you do it really well. And the more I get to know you, I'm really enjoying your quirky sense of humour. So keep that up. As Aria said, I work with all sorts of people, and I spent my lunchtime yesterday with a pharmacist who's an early leader, a wonderful woman, really lacking confidence in herself. And as we were having our lunch, I was talking about her relationship with courage and authenticity, and she said, "What do you mean?" And I went into my bag and grabbed my being book and went through some of the distinctions with her. And she said, "I've never thought before that I hadn't had a strong relationship with courage." So in a simple way, Ashkan, I think with that lady, she walked out perhaps with some inquiry and not so many answers, but a sense of that she wasn't broken, but that her relationships with certain aspects of her being were perhaps underdeveloped, or she hadn't even considered them. I first met the concept of ontology in 1980, can you believe it? And I was at university, and the last thing I was interested in is ontology, let me tell you. And now, full circle, I'm 64. I've come here and I really realize how throughout my life, I've been operating at, I'm not sure what level of my potential, but not at my full potential. And through you, Ashkan, I have a whole range of support people, many of them here, who have helped me look at who I am and who I choose to be in any given moment. And that's not easy, because the facade that I've had and the stories, the rackets I tell myself, have been one of completeness and so on. But through this process of review and challenge, and it's been really difficult, what you bring to us is not easy. And I had a conversation with Greg in his office one day, and I'm doing the Being Mastery at the moment, and he gave me a great piece of wisdom. And he said, just let it wash over you. Ashkan will say it enough for you to get it. And it actually works. And I think you've just got to sit with it, sit with the discomfort. And in a world where everything's put in a 14-character angry tweet, and you can go to Google and AI will do it all for you, thinking is hard. But to grow and to mature and to be who we are is very fulfilling, and I think it's part of our destiny as well. So thank you from me for your work, but also thank you for bringing all the people that I see here, the people that I know, that have helped me grow, that have helped me be more authentic. Another conversation I had with John Smallwood when he asked me to do the Being profile. Again, he said, now do it this time honestly. And I looked at him and I said, what do you mean? And I was quite incensed, John. And then I realized that I hadn't perhaps completed the first version of myself through the Being profile, honestly. But then when my authenticity scores went up much higher, I realized then all my other scores went lower because I was truly being honest. So thank you for the journey, Ashkan. As I said, thank you for your care. And also thank you for sharing things about yourself and your family, your pipes, your dogs, all the things, because it makes it human, it makes it real. And I've never been a great believer in online communities. I think we have 2 eyes, 2 ears, and 1 mouth to get a sense of who's in front of us closely. But through what you've done and the interactions with the wonderful people that you've influenced, I'm now a bit of a believer. And any final thing is thank you for bringing misery into my life. I look forward to embracing it. It's going to be a great journey. Thank you, everyone. And it's a great privilege knowing you, Ashkan.
Thank you for acknowledging the misery. Very, very good. So Mark is amongst a number of others, like Greg is in this round. They were exposed to the sustainability conversation through Being Mastery, right? So that's the only program that Ashkan leads directly. So thank you again, Mark. Yeah, really great to hear, that sitting with the discomfort. And to me, you are someone who has already built a lot of mastery, but your ability to keep the door open and keep allowing things, it's quite humbling. Thank you. Okay, so next I'd like to introduce Marlous Teh. She is the General Manager of the Genesis Coach Academy. Over to you, Marlous.
Thank you. I'm Marlous Teh. I'm a leadership, life and matrescence coach and also trainer, and I work predominantly with purpose-driven coaches, leaders and working parents. And as Aria said, I'm also a partner with Genesis and the General Manager of Genesis Coach Academy. And I've had the privilege and honor to begin reading Ashkan's manuscript of Sustainabilism book, and to be exposed to some of the concepts through the Being Mastery program. And I want to share a little story that when I joined this community over 6 years ago, I was at a time of significant transition and change in my career and life. Despite ticking all the boxes of success, I was actually feeling very unfulfilled. I had a successful career in corporate. I pivoted into charity. I had an incredible lifestyle with amazing travel opportunities and experiences I've been told many would dream of. And seemingly I had it all, but I didn't. Whilst I was ticking all these boxes of success on the outside, I was crumbling on the inside. I was deeply craving for more purpose, meaning, and impact in my life and my work, and really wondered, is this it? Up until that point, I had only known how to hit KPIs of success at the cost of my own health, my relationships, and joy, because that was what was celebrated and that was what I was praised for. And that resulted in multiple burnouts over the last decade, sacrificing my joy, fulfillment, and well-being as a norm. Even when I became aware of this and I thought I was done chasing other people's versions of success and found my calling in coaching and the work that I do today, I was still trying to uphold the persona of being that have it all together superwoman. And even when motherhood cracked my heart wide open in the best possible way, and I recalibrated my priorities, my life, my work to be the best mother I thought I ought to be for my beautiful young daughter and soon to be born son, as I'm currently 39 weeks pregnant. I still today find myself being torn between my vision, my ambition, and motherhood and life. And why am I sharing all of this? Because as a coach, a mother, a wife, and leader who is compelled to be of service and a contribution to humanity, I deeply long and crave to feel whole within myself and express my unique being and contribution through my relationships, my work, and my life. And I'm walking with this inquiry, you know, what will true integrity and fulfillment of my life, work, and motherhood look and feel like sustainably? 6 years ago, I didn't have the words or the scaffolding to actually pinpoint and truly understand what was going on. And now I do. Thank you, Ashkan, for this incredible body of work. A lot continues to crumble and unfold for new ways and possibilities as I step into this new phase and transition of my life once more. And something tells me, whilst it's terrifying and at the same time wildly exhilarating, something calls me to deeply trust. And being part of this community gives me great hope. And so I look forward to continuing to read the Sustainabilism book and applying it into my life and in my work. And because I know it's already creating these new possibilities and pathways for new worlds emerging through words. I believe that for many of us who may find ourselves inquiring what it truly means to be and live and lead authentically, wholly, intentionally, and sustainably in a world that sells us the opposite and many versions of that, this one is for you too. Ashkan, thank you for letting me be part of this incredible journey, and a huge congratulations on this labor of love, opening this ever important and much needed conversation right now in the world. May it ripple into this world with the love, care, and devotion that I have witnessed you and this community pour into it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And definitely, you know, I think Marlous is an example of integrating the motherhood, you know, your family, and then also the professional side as well. Thank you. Excellent. So next I'd like to introduce John Smallwood. John Smallwood is a master coach and has been part of our community from the start, contributing a lot into the Being Profile as well. If I can pass it to you, John.
Hi, Ariane. Congratulations, Marlous. So pretty amazing that you're here with your new baby, and that'll be an experience you can share in the future, I'm sure. Yes, my name's John Smallwood, and I know quite a lot of people here. I actually think I met Ashkan 10 years ago. I think it's pretty much 10 years ago now, and I'd met Arya slightly before that. And one thing I really remember, I'd rarely, if ever, met anyone who had so much to say, but was really frustrated with actually being able to articulate and say what he wanted to say. And I'm loving that he has what he has to say is actually being communicated to the world. I think that's incredible through the books. And I know that we keep saying you've written a book a year. I know there's about another 15 books that he keeps talking about up his sleeve, which are, I don't know when they're going to come out. So we can expect another book a year for the next 15 years at least. So that's going to be pretty incredible. But Ashkan, congratulations to you. I'm speaking directly to you, Ashkan. I know the amount of energy and effort and sweat that you've put into this work, and you are of all of the people I've met over the years, you're one of those individuals who I know cares deeply about the human condition and cares deeply about people at both a global level but also at an individual level. And I acknowledge you for that. And I also want to acknowledge Atefeh and Arya and Mel and your family together there, because I know that when Ashkan's writing a book, there's a lot of intensity and there's a cost to when someone does something like that. There's a significant cost. It impacts a lot of people. There's a lot of energy and effort goes into it. And just want to really acknowledge those individuals who are involved in it. So for me, this is one of the first times, Ashkan, that I haven't read the book cover to cover before. I have read elements of it. I've read some of the first chapters. I'm actually really excited to read one of your books that I haven't seen before. That'll be a new thing for me, so I'm looking forward to that. So there's a few surprises I've got no doubt will be there along the way. You know, one of the things I think that I'm really present to here is looking at this community, how influential we are as coaches. So we are, as coaches, a very significant part and a proactive part of the solution. So now, Aydin, you talked about the problem and the solution. I think coaches, we really do need to acknowledge that we have a responsibility as coaches to actually bring that solution. I think that's incredibly important too. So the Being Profile and the Being Framework are already being a game changer. And I think the coaching world still hasn't learned as much as it can about that. But I think we're going to be looking back in decades to come, and people will be talking about the Being Profile and the Being Framework as game changers. And I'm really excited to see how the sustainability conversation is going to be part of that in the future as well. And I think the last thing I want to say is most of us, when we think about philosophers, I know before I met Ashkan, I always thought about philosophers like from historical perspective. Philosophers were a thing in the past. I think it's an incredible privilege for us to be in the presence of and to have been in communication with and sat with and had conversations with real life living philosopher right here in the present. So I'm just present to that privilege that we have right now. So Ashkan, I want to thank you again. Thank this community. So many people here have been a contribution to me, and I just love being part of this community as well. So thank you, Ashkan, and thank you, team.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. Excellent. So now, last but absolutely not least, I'd like to introduce Dr. Anna Carr. She's based in Canberra. She's a facilitator. She's a coach. Over to you, Anna.
Thank you to everyone, spoken and unspoken. I particularly acknowledge those of you who are new for the very first time, who've never heard this conversation before. Thank you for being here. So first of all, thank you, Ashkan. I'm not going to congratulate you or talk about the book. Everything has already been said. But I thank you. I'm so grateful for our, 2018, I did a beta version of the being profile. And since then, I've been on the phone, talking, challenging, discussing, building our relationship. So grateful. So I invite a pause here, just a moment in time. Consider that our global systems are immature. So in geological time, our biophysical world is sort of joined up with, it's put in the same toy box as our invented systems, our socio-cultural systems, our political systems, our scientific systems. And they've all been shaken up by our internal arrogance, our belief that we are separate. So that's been covered. But we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. So when those three systems get shaken up, things get broken, cracked up, bumping up against each other. And disintegration and integration are both possible. Yesterday, I have the great privilege of facilitating and being with a mob of Narago, so First Nations people, and the most extraordinary woman, a 97-year-old woman, spoke loudly, clearly, and demanded of us, as the oldest living survivor of Narago people and First Nations members, the oldest living, continuing culture on the planet. She had this observation to make. She said, "You mob, we're like toddlers. We've just come together. We've only just met. How we develop and listen, be with each other is what can make the difference." So we must learn to communicate and relate to each other in ways that have integrity or go toward integrity and be caring and careful around our disintegration. So I do care deeply about this, as you can tell, and I invite you to care deeply too, to take on the framework, the book, and for those of you who already take it every day, to look newly, to see it newly, like a toddler, and who we are, who you are, how I am being, how you are being, and what you do, where we apply this work and how we apply it is just the most demanding opportunity in time we have right now. Tuesday, no more person said to me, time is running out for us. Well, time is running out. Being and time are integral. So as whether you're a facilitator or a coach, manager, someone in government, someone as a social entrepreneur, thanks Taiwo, all of people who are here, consultants, we're all leaders. Your application of this book and this is what will sustain us, our systems going forward. And I really look forward to having that big book in my hands to read, to exercise my physical muscles when I pick it up, and to know that every single word is heartfelt, and invite a slow appreciation for who we are geologically and each other. It's been a great pleasure to talk through that, the limnoscape, the opportunity of the infinity, and to recognize that we're being in time. So thank you again, Ashkan, and thank you everyone for being here.
Thank you so much, Anna. Brilliant. So ladies and gentlemen, please take a moment. We'd like to thank every single one of our guest speakers. There was so much shared there. And really, I think each of you can already see and understand, I mean, the vision for Ashkan, and then as he leads our group here at Ingenesis, it's a big vision. And one of the things that keep that vision going is seeing each person, their stories, the impact. So I want to thank again every guest speaker, but not only that, I can see many faces in here of, we couldn't fit everyone in here today. And we really thank you for being with us, for how you wake up and choose to do what you do every single day. And so I'm going to take a brief moment now to go through a bit of, and I can say an overview of the book, but it's not an overview of the book. It's just a glimpse of what you can expect in the book. If I was to take a bit of time to outline the whole book, I would easily take the full 2 hours, right? So as we can see today, I mean, as I was coming into today, I was just being present again. Ashkan speaks about this. There is so much fragmentation in how we live right now. I mean, from a family level, we have cost of living crisis, economical crisis, right? There are civil conflicts, there are ideological conflicts, government, currencies. I mean, the list goes on. And so the first thing to know is that if you resonate with any of these layers, it can be individual, community-based, societal, then you're going to get, there's a connection into this book. And what I personally found is that there are some times where we don't think things are connected. And until someone comes along and maps out the patterns that are invisible and beneath the surface, we see the things that are now connected that we didn't previously see. And we can't unsee that. And so that's what Ashkan has done in this book, okay? So what I like to say is it an airport read? Absolutely not. I think everyone sort of gets that. But also, is it a textbook? No, it's not here to just go through different theories. For me, it's more of a companion, right? It's something that is there that is going to walk you through how to build sustainable systems in your life on multiple levels. So I'm going to display a few images and diagrams, right? There are a lot of different models through the book. The unified ontology of systemic integrity, there are these 16 qualities, and every single one of them is explored and has its part in the book, okay? And these make up the sustainability profile, the tool, which can also be something that you engage with. If you're interested in being a leader who actually impacts, or what we call modulates, right? You actually are someone who influences these systems within and around you, to thrive and to be regenerative. Okay, so again, my intention is not to go through all of these, but to share with you some of the things. There are lots of different components in there. Now, let me just put this one here. Now, in addition, there are also really great practical examples. So Ashkan goes through examples like in the healthcare system, right? In the entrepreneurial world, in government. So it's mapped with real life examples that you can follow. And there are also great exercises and reflective elements, right? For you to think about yourself, the teams around your organizations. This is something called the Authentic Sustainability Blueprint, which brings together the whole authentic sustainability framework. It connects with something called the fulfillment pyramid, and also our ways of being, okay? So with that, let me just share this. If I can share a couple of pieces here. So number one, to order your copy, you can go to sustainabilism.net. This is the place to order. The ebook version is not yet released, but very shortly soon we'll announce when it is going to be released. So right now we can order the hard copies in paperback or hardcover. It is currently on a launch special, right, at $60 Australian plus postage, but it's going to be going up in about 30 days, okay? We have the sustainability profile, which we've mentioned, right? And we are taking applications for access to the early stage version. So if that's of interest to you, feel free to go to sustainabilityprofile.net and simply put in your, I just have it right here, simply put in join the beta and our team will reach out to you. We're not accepting high numbers right now, but it's actually been quite interesting, the conversations already coming out of that. So the sustainability profile is you're answering questions about how you're relating to the systemic integrity around you, okay? Brilliant. Okay. Ashkan has released a few articles about sustainabilism, right, outlining the overarching narrative on ingenesis.com. So if you go there and find the articles, those are really valuable if you either want that for yourself or someone who is interested in that. And finally, in this, we are also opening up special orders. Now, whether that means you want to bulk purchase, right, you want to get a number of books for a group or a team, or we are also opening up in the next 30 days for anyone who wants to access the Sustainabilism book with any of the prior books. We're actually offering a 20% reduction for the next 30 days, right? So if you want to get some of the other pieces as well, that is there as part of celebrating the launch. I'd like to acknowledge and thank you everyone who has been part of the book, right, behind the scenes, all of the speakers, all of you who are already applying the work and continuing on. You can go to sustainabilism.net to order your copy, right? But as with many of our other ones, this is not only just the beginning, right? But it is the grounding for us to keep going and being that, I think as Aydin put it, being part of that solution. So thank you once again for attending today. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. It was great.
Everyone.
Bye.